What happens when a black man got fed up with racist neighbor using his Wi-Fi? Let's dive in to see. In the heart of a bustling city, there lived a man named Darnell. He wasn't much to look at if you judged people by appearances. He stood about 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and hands that told stories of years spent working hard. Darnell was known for his calm demeanor, always smiling even when life threw him curveballs. But beneath that quiet exterior lay a fire, one he rarely let out. Darnell worked as an IT specialist during the day, but moonlighted as a freelance writer at night. His apartment on the fourth floor of an old brick building had become both his sanctuary and battleground over the past few months. The internet connection in his neighborhood wasn't great, so he splurged on a premium plan, ensuring smooth video calls and uninterrupted research sessions. Little did he know, this decision would lead to something far bigger than just faster downloads. One evening, while typing away on his laptop, Darnell noticed something strange. Pages were loading slower than usual, videos buffering endlessly. Frustrated, he ran a speed test only to find his once lightning-fast connection reduced to a crawl. Curious, he opened his router settings and froze. There it was, a device connected to his network that didn't belong to him. Someone nearby was leeching off his Wi-Fi. At first, Darnell shrugged it off. "People do what they gotta do," he muttered under his breath. But then came the emails from his service provider warning about excessive data usage. That's when irritation bubbled up inside him. Who was using his connection without permission? And why hadn't they asked? The next morning, armed with his tablet, Darnell stepped onto the balcony overlooking the small courtyard below. After scanning the area, his eyes landed on the neighbor across the way, Mr. Alden. A wiry man in his late 50s, Mr. Alden often complained about everything from loud music to kids playing basketball too late. Darnell didn't know him well, but he'd heard enough whispers around the building to understand Mr. Alden had a reputation for being difficult. As days turned into weeks, Darnell monitored his connection closely. Each time the same unfamiliar device popped up. Finally, one afternoon, he decided to confront the issue head-on. Knocking firmly on Mr. Alden's door, he waited patiently until the older man answered. "Can I help you?" Mr. Alden asked, his tone sharp like broken glass. "I think your Wi-Fi might be having some issues," Darnell began politely. "I noticed my connection's slowing down and I wanted to check if maybe we're sharing networks." Mr. Alden snorted, crossing his arms tightly. "Sharing networks? I don't need charity, boy. My setup works fine." Darnell frowned, taken aback by the dismissive tone. "It's not about charity. It's about respect. If you're using my connection, it slows things down for me too." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Mr. Alden smirked. "Well, maybe you should get yourself a better job instead of complaining." That comment hit Darnell like a punch to the gut. Not because it was true, he loved his work, but because it carried an underlying prejudice. Instead of rising to the bait, though, Darnell nodded slowly. "All right, Mr. Alden, just thought I'd bring it up. Have a good day." Walking back to his apartment, Darnell felt anger simmering beneath the surface. How could someone treat another human being like garbage simply because of their skin color? Yet, deep down, he knew reacting wouldn't solve anything. So he resolved to handle the situation differently. Over the next week, Darnell set up a security camera near his router, recording every attempt made to access his network. One night, after hours of waiting, the footage revealed the truth. Mr. Alden himself had been hacking into Darnell's Wi-Fi. Watching the video, Darnell shook his head. This wasn't just about stealing bandwidth, it was personal. But instead of calling the authorities or confronting Mr. Alden again, Darnell chose a different path. He downloaded a program that allowed him to monitor all activity on his network remotely. Every time Mr. Alden logged in, Darnell played pranks, streaming random cat videos, redirecting searches to bizarre websites, even sending fake error messages. At first, it was harmless fun, but soon, Darnell realized these actions weren't helping either. They only fueled resentment. Then, one rainy evening, inspiration struck. While scrolling through old files, Darnell stumbled upon a quote from a book he'd read long ago. "Revenge is sweet, but forgiveness sets you free." Those words resonated deeply within him. What if, instead of retaliating, he reached out with kindness? The next morning, Darnell knocked on Mr. Alden's door once more. This time, however, he carried a box containing a new router and instructions for setting it up. When Mr. Alden opened the door, suspicion clouded his face. "What's this?" he demanded, eyeing the package warily. "It's a gift," Darnell replied softly. "Your current setup probably isn't strong enough to cover your whole house. Thought this might help." Mr. Alden stared at him, clearly baffled. "Why are you doing this?" Darnell smiled faintly. "Because holding grudges weighs you down. Besides, everyone deserves a fair shot." For the first time, Mr. Alden seemed speechless. Slowly, he accepted the box, muttering a reluctant thank you before shutting the door. As Darnell walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, he'd planted a seed of change. Weeks passed, and to Darnell's surprise, tensions eased between them. Mr. Alden stopped making snide remarks, and occasionally they exchanged polite nods in the hallway. One evening, while heading home from work, Darnell found a note slipped under his door. "Thank you for showing me another way. I owe you an apology." Tears pricked Darnell's eyes as he read those simple words. In helping someone else, he'd found peace within himself. Life, he realized, wasn't about winning arguments or proving others wrong. It was about bridging gaps, finding common ground, and choosing love over hate. And so Darnell continued living his life, spreading positivity wherever he went. Because sometimes the greatest victories aren't measured in battles won, but in hearts healed. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.